Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive Papi Danny Limelight, the United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Papi.
They want NWA? Let's give them NWA.
Who are those guys?
And then there's the other guys.
We're the other guys. We're the guys nobody ever bets on.
The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
It's time for the Other Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts, Tim, Dave, and Jeremy.
We're having a hard time holding these alligators down as the Others Alliance Guys are on the air. We are very glad to be here for the first show of the new year, our 26th episode, guys. 26.
I can't find my camera. 26.
Yeah,
a lot.
It feels like a lot less than that, but it's so much fun. I'm so glad to be here in 2023 to you guys and all you guys in the chat. We are the Other Alliance Guys, a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information around the National Wrestling Alliance, the United Wrestling Network, and various independents around the world. My name is Tim, and I am joined by, well, whether you like him or not, learn to love him because he's the best thing going. His name is Jeremy. How are you, buddy?
I am doing well. I am the king of the hot takes on Discord.
Oh, fantastic.
Did you not see my hot take on Sasha Banks?
I did not. Tell us.
Keep her away from everything.
Well, we have to have a new segment, Jeremy's Hot Takes.
Yeah.
You just say it, and that'll be it. No comments allowed from anybody. And we are joined by the man who spent more money on spilt liquor and bars from one side of the world to the other than you made last year. His name is Dave Scooby. How are you, Dave?
I'm doing great.
Good. Well, it's like we say, it's been a good New Year's, and here we are with lots of people here in the chat. I see Willie Bowen. Oh my gosh, look at all the comments, guys. Hey, it looks like Unseen Shifter was here at around 5, so
Yeah. He's an interesting look at.
yeah. Dodie is here. Are we getting Alliance After Dark? Only if the power goes out. It's raining pretty hard here right now. Willie here with the joke of the day for Tyrus. The difference between Tyrus' stomach and a full buffet table. Simply, the table will be empty according to Tyrus' stomach. Willie, man, you got to watch. I hope you don't bump into Tyrus in a dark alley someday.
I'll be there if he does.
Yeah, all right. Got Willie's back. Media M5's here. Well, I'm glad you're getting some medical help. I just saw your name and put it up. So
awesome.
Fantastic for you, buddy. That's good to hear. Sam Retro's here. What's up, Sam? Good to see you, my friend. And James Bell is in the house as well. If you guys are out there and I can see even more of you are on, please speak up. And hey, Happy New Year to you as well, Willie.
Happy New Year, Willie Bowen.
Here's media's hot take on Banks. Let her stay on the Indies or New Japan, and there's always OnlyFans.
I'd buy that for $1. I wouldn't, but
I remember that movie. The boss is here. Oh my gosh, everything's free. How about that NWA? Good to see you, Jay. Listen, what are we talking about tonight? We are talking about, we got some results only for Powerrr because Jay and DK and Jaden will take care of the details to that tomorrow night. We didn't have an NWA USA, so we got some different topics tonight.
I was surprised by that, too.
You know, that's something I wanted to mention is sort of the lack of communication out of the NWA recently with that and with the big news that we heard. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about it now. I mean, it was just, I saw your message on Discord. Is there no NWA USA? And I went and looked because I like to watch it so that I can fast forward through,
Right.
Austin Idol going like excitement's at a fever pitch. Yeah, there was no NWA USA, and I didn't hear anything about that happening on social media or anywhere. How about you, Dave? Did you know beforehand?
No, I did not. I was sort of disappointed. I mean, it's become almost a ritual every Saturday at noon. Oh, something on in the background. I can always go rewatch it if there's something good that happens, but it's background, and I'll keep an eye on it. But I mean, I was really surprised, and I'm not sure how they're doing with the tapings and the scheduling of what's going to be shown and what's not. So I can understand them taking the holidays off, but just be blunt about it and say, hey, we're taking the next couple Saturdays off due to the holidays.
Yeah.
Enjoy time with your family from the NWA. Boom. Simple
Because when you,
or do a best of show and just, hey, here's our champions. Here's a look at a couple matches from our champions in 2022.
Yeah, we took the best 5 matches from 2022. Here's Tyrus winning the 10 pounds of gold. Here's, La Rebellion retaining against Hawksherry or Camille versus Max or whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, Jay says it's kind of hard to hear you, Scooby, so maybe you're still a little low on the mic. But
I feel that it was a missed opportunity. I mean, Memphis had a show on, Hollywood had a show on, and that's typically how I watch. I watch USA comes on right before Memphis, then depending on how long USA runs, I've got a little bit of time in between the end of it and the beginning of Memphis.
Yep.
And then this week there was no USA, and I was just kind of dumbfounded by that.
The thing is, for me, I'm sure everybody, is that when you don't hear or read the message, and you just go there and you're like, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
Or when you hear something like, "Here's as effective today, we're no longer on Fight. As of today, Tuesday, go watch Powerrr a couple hours from now on YouTube."
Yeah.
And I thought, that just, both of those things, when the communication isn't there, it seems haphazard to me, like it was unplanned. Wouldn't you say, as of this date, a month in advance, so that people can gear up and get into it? Wouldn't that seem more professional and, like they had this planned for a while?
You would think so, and this is something that I'm sure that this is a business move, so this is something that they surely had to have known ahead of time. They either weren't going to re-up, or Fight had told them, hey, we're not going to re-up you for anything like that. Something, surely.
Did you feel the same way, Dave, with the communication around that?
Yeah, I thought it was, I mean, let's wait till the last minute to let you know. They could have given us a heads up, maybe even a couple days earlier, just to
That's a good
prepare. But I mean, it's one of these things of, I'm not really sure what happened with their deal with Fight, but I'm wondering if it had anything to do with Aldous no longer being with the NWA, because he was, I'm not sure if you'd say a catalyst, but he had some dealings with Fight, and he was also I don't know if you'd want to call him an analyst, but he appeared on several Fight shows.
Yeah.
And I do believe he had dealings with contracts between the NWA and Fight, as well as himself. So, who knows?
Yeah.
It may have been an overpromised or underpromised. Who knows?
Yeah, and anything's possible, but you know, James H. Jackson, who's here in the chat a lot, he put it on Twitter, and I just went, "Oh, retweet big news out of the NWA." And
Yep.
not only did I have people going, "Oh, really? That's great. That's amazing,"
Yeah.
but I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me entirely, but I'm pretty sure that James put his out before the NWA did.
I wouldn't be the least bit surprised.
Yeah, that just blew me away. Like, you know,
James is on top of his wrestling news, man. Yeah.
but if I don't know if Coke says I'm changing the formula, and you know Tim Wood posts about it before Coke does, I mean, what?
Yeah.
A couple of people talking about it in the chat right now. They canceled subscription if they wanted it, and cancel their subscription if they wanted in advance. So one of the things, like someone put on the retweet that I made for James, said like, you know, great, there goes $50 or whatever it is for the NWA on Fight, and NWA put on there, your subscription will be honored. So that was good to know, but they had to answer a tweet for that.
Yeah.
The clarity isn't there for me yet.
Yeah. And to something that Dave said about over promising and under promising and stuff, the NWA did over promise whenever they went to Fight. There was never any Fight exclusive stuff that I recall.
Yeah.
Outside of the pay-per-views and the weekly shows.
Yeah, Jay's talked about that on his sorry, I was just reading something. You're on the pre-party a couple of times. Yeah, no, there never was. You're absolutely right. Just looking at some of the comments, media says, yeah, this is a sudden announcement. Though thought of over time, it wasn't presented well verbally. People had many questions about the past, and it should have been addressed in their speech.
Yeah.
Dave, Jody wants to know if your mic is hacked. Did Billy hack your mic? You sound a little better now. Yeah. Sam Retro, I literally just got charged a few days back.
Yeah.
I actually bought Fight Plus. I thinking, oh, I have to have that now.
Yeah.
So that's like, even I got it wrong, and you think I'd be tied into these things, but apparently I'm not. You could ask you could ask for a refund, but again, your pass will be honored. They have said that. So,
hey, the echo's gone.
Oh, so it is. There you go. Media says, I don't blame Fight. I blame Billy on the lack of communication.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not Fight's job to let us know that they're not going to be carrying the NWA anymore like that.
That's right. That's a great point. I agree. Media says it's purely on Billy and the NWA. They knew. Very poor layout of information.
Yep.
Going back to the old model of the programming for YouTube, guess they realized it wasn't a profitable venture, but now this answers the questions and topics from 2 months ago we all spoke of before all this last. Well, what I don't know if that's the case, but maybe it does. I've had a couple of really bright people on Twitter say to me, guys, I guess they have realized that the Tyrus experiment of pulling people over from Gutfeld isn't working. And it makes me shake my head. Like, putting it on YouTube gives those people instant exposure.
Yep.
And it has been, and we'll talk about it, 53 days, I think, today, as Dave pointed out the other day, since Tyrus won the championship. And that's not enough of a litmus test to be able to see if it's working or not. It's not even anywhere close. So, I mean, let's talk about like it actually going to YouTube. It seems like a great. I kind of went, oh, like thank goodness, because the numbers they used to pull on YouTube were large. I looked.
Yeah.
I'll look while we're here, but I looked, there were 16,000 people like earlier today who had seen that episode with no notice of warning from Powerrr yesterday.
Yeah.
What do you guys both think about them going back to YouTube?
I think it was the right decision. I didn't like the decision to go behind a paywall to begin with. We come from a generation growing up watching television where it was on every week, and you only paid if it was a big event thing. They
Right.
sold you throughout the entire month or months, then months leading up to their quarterly or biannual pay-per-view that they would put on. You know, so we would get months-long storylines that played out, and then you would go pay either for the ticket to go see it live or pay for it on pay-per-view to see it. You know, now it's became WWE made it to where it's a regular every month you've got to be putting out a big event. And that's cut back a lot on storylines and stuff. Lengthy storylines, I feel. But going back to YouTube, I feel is the smartest move that they made in a while. There was almost 1,000 people last night in the live chat.
That's great.
You know,
I used to look at the our friends over at the This is the NWA Weekly podcast, the podcast of the NWA.
Yep.
Those guys work there, great guys. And by the way, if you're not following Gary Horn just for his memes alone, you're missing out on like some amazing laughs every day. He has so many. But Will Martin as well, and I saw Doc Stinson was back for the last show, so that was great.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think he was just popping in. But those guys, I thought, they're not, really the viewership level doesn't appear to be that high, and they're not pulling a lot of people, at the actual. Jason says, "I hate Gary," but just kidding. And apparently, Doc is back, so fantastic. The bearded trio return. But if you look at the number of like views on YouTube now over time that like one episode has gotten, it's thousands, and it is amazing to see.
Yep.
So, Dave, what did you think about them going back to YouTube and what that means for the future of the NWA now?
I think it's a good move. I'm not really up on what the standards and what YouTube actually charges and money and all that kind of stuff, but I mean I watch Impact. I pay $3.99, $4.99 a month to watch Impact.
Yep.
I don't watch it all the time because I'm usually doing stuff with the Alliance blog podcasts or other podcasts that I'm watching, but I'll watch highlights. And I mean, I don't mind spending a few bucks here and there. And granted, it's all pre-recorded, but I mean, we're able to do live shows on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there may be a way for the NWA to do, I mean, they're doing a live show at the end of this month.
Yeah.
Why can't they do their pay-per-views on YouTube as well and charge $9.99? Go back to the old TNA, NWA, $9.99 Wednesday pay-per-view thing. I pay $10 for a pay-per-view. You do 6 or 7 a year. They're not spending a lot, but they're also getting more people watching. And I mean, to me, it's almost a no-brainer to do unless they're contracted with Fight to do their pay-per-views, do it on YouTube.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and maybe someone will think that up as they go along. I maintain you should be working there, Dave. But you know what? The one change for me, like when they said, "Hey, it's $50 or whatever it was for everything on Fight," I went, no brainer. I've paid $50 before for WrestleMania, like, in years to pass. But now it's like I have to think about: do I want to watch the pay-per-views? Like if I think a pay-per-view is weak, and I've seen in the Lightning One era probably 2 pay-per-views I would say was weak. But I mean, I'd probably still watch them both. But I think there's a lot of people who will go, I think I'll save my $25 or $30 or whatever it is, right, and go spend it on something else.
Yeah.
That's the downside. Media, hey, putting us over. Gary's an okay dude, but I prefer Alliance blog over the NWA associate streams. Their others are too padded and fake talk. I don't know if I'd say fake talk, because again, Gary and Will and Doc are friends, and they're good guys. But yeah, I get the point. They are working for the company, and more power on them for doing so. Yeah. Whereas Jay is always saying we're able to have conversations like this about whether something's working or not. Media also says NWA should charge pay-per-view shows on YouTube. What you were saying, Dave. They can get super chats. Also bring back Carneyland, or other things for the join button for extra content. Yeah, I mean I actually thought it was a little odd when they created the NWA Extra channel.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just put that on the NWA channel? Why are you trying to lure people to a different channel? I mean, maybe you get double the money, but I don't think they have very many viewers on that channel.
Well, it was the old Carneyland channel, and it was just sitting there vacant, and it didn't have any type of content on it at all. And so they reappropriated it. And maybe that was a foreshadowing of that we just didn't pick up on, of them coming back to YouTube. And maybe we will get more stuff like that. Because love it or hate it, Carneyland did have some bright spots to it. The Eli Drake show was must see for me.
Right.
But I'm excited to see what I've said this before, and we've all said this. I'm excited to see what 2023 has in store for the NWA, and going back to YouTube, I think is the best, is a step in the best direction in executing anything.
Looking at the NWA channel right now on YouTube, they have 251,000 subscribers, and NWA Extra has 1.3 thousand.
Yeah.
So 1,300 people. And it's mostly this is the NWA live stream.
Yep.
Right now. So yeah, I mean, I hope it grows, and it's a good move. The Champion Series, we've been saying, has been fun. Mm-hmm. You know what I love about the Champion Series, guys? And it's so meaningless. It just tells you what a mark I am in my heart. Is I spend a lot of time looking in the background at just people talking, like you see Tyrus leaning over and he's talking to Mecha Wolf, and they're like, yeah. And I know that it's like that in real life, but it creates a different dynamic in the background for me.
It does. Like last night, whenever Pollo got up and was high-fiving everybody in the crowd whenever Silas got the win,
yeah,
she was on a completely different team that's now eliminated, but yet, just that's my guy,
Right. Jay says the reason they had a split channel was the lower views on the videos from the podcast were hurting what they were making on their wrestling videos.
Oh, see, wow.
I learned something new every time I'm on this podcast. So it makes sense to me. And media says
was dropping their exposure on the home screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess it's all about the algorithm. Jeremy's right. It's the old Carney channel. Not many views, and it doesn't help when they don't advertise that channel. I hardly ever see them promoting it over Twitter for their streams.
Yeah.
So we wish them all the best, and it's an interesting turn, and it's been a positive start to this year. we're going to run down Powerrr. Then we're going to do some championship wrestling from Jeremy as he talks about the UWN. We're going to talk about, we're going to do an I Respect You Booker Man, the first one of the year, and with Dave. And, you know, we haven't really talked about the roundtable discussion, but let's do that a bit later. Let's get some structure into this thing right now. Let's talk about NWA Powerrr, and we'll do the rundown for that one. The results. Again, tune in tomorrow night to hear Jay and DK and Jaden go through the actual show itself. But we have intellectually appropriated the. We are squatting on the results from Powerrr tonight to spoil you with them. This was the Champions Series semifinals, and it depicted the four teams that were, I believe, left: Team Tyrus, Team Rebellion, Team Rock and Roll, and Team Great were the last four teams standing. After the first four were gone, and the media, let's stick to structure in under an hour and a half. Yeah, it'll never happen. It'll never happen.
Never.
So we start off with EC3, and so just like actually as the show comes up, the cold open, it's EC3 talking, it's Tyrus talking, La Rebellion, Colby Carino, Joe Alonzo, Silas Mason, Pollo Del Mar, Aaron Stevens take their turns talking about what's going to happen today. And I wanted to comment on this, guys, just because I loved this particular kind of cold open where it's just, you know, like you guys can say, anyone can say what they want about any wrestling talent. I think EC3 is super compelling when he's on the mic. Yeah. I know that you know, it's the whole narrative, but this time it worked. It was like, it's fate that I'm with Tyrus. I'm about control your narrative, and he is the narrative. He's the news, right? And I thought this was great. What did you think, Jeremy?
I really enjoyed this opening segment. Like you said, with EC3, this time, this is the first time that his whole mumbo jumbo, speaking in riddles, control your narrative thing has actually clicked for me, and it worked really well. And I wanted to comment on Silas. That dude, oh my God, bro, look at me, bro. If you're seeing this, Silas, you're gonna bust a blood vessel and give yourself a hernia if you don't calm down just the slightest bit. I love the energy, but I'm worried about your health, bro.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Dave, did you like the open to this show?
I did like the open. I'm hoping they continue even after the Champions Series of highlighting who's going to be on. And if they don't start the match right off from the get-go, have a little 20, 30-second blurb of your main event maybe. Have those guys or gals talking about what they're going to do and what's coming up later in the show. Yeah. And then just throw it to the ring.
And they picked almost basically everyone who could talk for this opening stuff, right? Tyrus, EC3, Mecha Wolf can talk. He's good. Colby can talk. Joe Alonzo getting airtime just made me happy.
Yeah.
Right. So it was good. And Pollo and Silas, like you say, just losing his mind. It was hilarious. And of course, Aaron Stevens. So and then we go into the beginning match, which media points out was effing great. All their promos into the intro were fire, especially Thrillies. The opening match was the best on the card. That spinning side slam. That's because
ridiculous.
Yeah, that's
10 times. 10 times.
Yeah. Did you count it?
I counted it. I'm like, man, he must have gone around 5 or 6 times. Then I watched it again, and I'm like, 10 times. I go, I'd fall right over.
Yeah, and he was on it. You know,
I would. 3 of them, and I just would have passed out. I wouldn't have been able to do that. But so in this particular match, EC3, Carnage and Silas from Team Tyrus go over Colby Carino, Odinson, and Joe Alonzo from Team Rebellion, getting themselves some points. As they point out, it is Silas with this crazy slam. It was actually kind of neat, really kind of cool symmetry, if that's the word that I'm using that correctly, between EC3 and him when he was in trouble and he was like Thrilly, and then he kind of came in and then as Thrilly rolled out, there goes the submission hold right from EC3, and even when like Thrilly was on the apron at the end and EC3's kind of hugging his neck
on him and
damage
just say, you're a beautiful man, and Thrilly's saying it back to you, you're a beautiful man too.
Man. Yeah, that's how these nuggets of stuff are born, right?
Yep. And I love to see that too, that camaraderie between those two. EC3's been in this business for a while now, so to be able to be under his learning tree is a good place to be, I feel.
100%. Jay liked the open, but it also reminded him of Modern Family of The Office. What prank will Jim put on Dwight this week? Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it does. And Dodie, yesterday's episode was on fire. NWA over-delivered the work rate. Silas rolling perfect storm are so ouch. And Samantha shows us she's more than just Baby Doll's daughter. We finally got to see the DDT, but we'll get to that. We all think I love that match. La Rosa Negra, Valkyrie, and Velvet and Love do a segment. They're all kind of talking about the match that's about to come up between Taya Valkyrie and Angelina Love. But we get May Valentine with Taya Valkyrie, and it's kind of just a very quick. I hurt Rosa. I've known her from a decade. I don't know if I'm a heel or not. Dave, when you think of Taya, does she just come across as like the ultimate tweener for you, or is she a face or is she a heel?
Good question. I mean, it's one of these things of you either like or dislike how she is or how she wrestles. I mean, she just goes in there, whoops ass, and gets out of the ring. It's one of those that she doesn't need to be good or bad. She just goes in, does her thing, and I mean, her wrestling does the talking for her.
It almost seemed like that's the reason that seemed like such a credible threat to Camille, and probably also the reason why she wouldn't take it, because you'd be replacing one with another, right? Yeah. They're very similar in character.
Now, Tim, the one thing I did notice, it wasn't on this episode, but it's for the live taping, that Angelina Love is teaming up with Fodder.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, in the back of my head, I'm like, well, let's see here. Taya has her significant other, and he's not signed anywhere. So will Johnny Alliance make an appearance at the live Powerrr or the next pay-per-view, which is less than 2 weeks after that live event?
Man, I didn't even think of that.
I mean,
that'd be
I don't
great.
know where they're going. If they're going, I'm not saying go mix tags, but if it works, it works.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. I love to watch that dude wrestle.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Yes. And what was he came out with a movie where he was Boone.
Yeah.
That movie is hilarious. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
I haven't. I'll take a look.
He plays a Dog the Bounty Hunter type of guy, and it totally works for him, and it's a good movie.
I love this comment from media. Pollo's character brings life to the matches in the audience. You don't hear anyone else being as vocal with their character towards anyone.
Yep.
Yeah, Pollo is so vocal, and it's amazing because there's so much energy coming out of them, you know. And
That's
even
because they have such a great mind for the business.
Yeah.
You know, even if I'm not on screen, you're going to know I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So Taya Valkyrie, Team Rock and Roll, she goes over Angelina Love in one of the better matches for Angelina Love in the NWA to date. Jeremy, your thoughts on this one?
I definitely agree with you there. Angelina is one of those that I've never really been that big on because for me, it was more appearance than substance in the ring. I felt, especially in the Impact days. But she's come along. She's come along nicely in the NWA, and it's a good addition to. She's a good addition to the women's division, and this was a good match for her.
Right. Yeah, it was pretty decent. She could speak with the road to Valhalla, and it wasn't an easy win for Taya, so she looked strong, as really, mostly everyone has in some really great matches in the Champions Series. Jake says, I call gimmick infringement on Johnny Alliance. Johnny National? Johnny Tradition?
Can't call him Johnny Wrestling.
No.
Because that's the little Gargano dude.
That's right. Hey, listen, what's the big news? It comes up next. It's not that the NWA is on YouTube. It's not that Tyrus is going to defend the 10 pounds of gold. It's that Aaron Stevens and May Valentine are getting married, everybody. Wow. This they have a segment together where Aaron's put into a corner and they're going to get married.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. I'm going to move right along and just kind of say, unless you guys want to comment, you got something on this one you want to talk about?
I'm biting my tongue.
All wrestling weddings work out, right?
Oh, definitely. Well, Triple H and Stephanie are still together, and that one was a disaster. So,
they did get married on like Raw or something, didn't they?
Yeah, she was drunk and she was passed out.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was an inconsensual one at that, an
That's
inconsensual marriage, and it by today's standards now. So yeah, and they're still together. So maybe there's hope.
Doty, if we do get Aaron and May after dark, that has to be behind a paywall, buddy.
Oh yeah.
Love reminds me of Melina. Jay says they could use her in the same way to get younger talent over. I agree.
Yeah.
But they're putting her in a combo pair with Fodder. We'll talk about that. Psycho Love to come. But we get Samantha Starr and Kayla Cassidy and Ashley D'Amboise speaking, which is great. And none of them really say anything you wouldn't expect. But it's great because it just gives them exposure. It's what we've been yearning for. I want to hear some of these people talk. Listen, when Rhett Titus talked like a week or two ago, I had never heard Rhett Titus talk before.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, well, now I think he needs a manager to speak for him because I want him to be super successful, right?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like that's interesting to know stuff like that. It is Starr and Cassidy from Team Tyrus, Dave, who go over Max the Impaler and was it Ashley D'Amboise? God, why did I just blank on her name? From Team Rebellion. When Samantha Starr hits the DDT, but I guess Uncle Jake must have taught her at some point.
Yeah.
What did you think of that one?
I thought overall it was a decent match. It helped all of the wrestlers that were involved. It helped raise their stock even in losing. I'm just looking forward to what they do with the women's division, and if they keep any of these teams that are wrestling now together for possible, I don't know, possibly going against Pretty Empowered at the next pay-per-view in February.
Yeah. Yeah, that pay-per-view comes so quick after
Yeah.
the live power.
Yeah.
Even that doesn't feel like there's enough lead up, since we were talking about that earlier. What are the matches going to be? This is funny. Ashley Damboaz is damn fine while Oz. What are we saying here? Oh, then we get the ladies genocide. Well, Kerry Morton's in there too, but Maddie gets some airtime. Natasha Markova, Missa Kate, all get to speak. Again, just really enjoyed seeing the voices, hearing the voices to the with the faces, and being able to have that quick airtime. I'd love to see more of that at the podium with Kyle again. I'm missing that one, or even just with May backstage. But Jeremy, we get Missa Kate and Natalia Markova going over Maddie and Genocide when Markova throws this crazy submission at the end on Maddie, which probably, in retrospect, looks like it probably didn't hurt at all, but it really looked like at the time, like, oh, what is that? People don't bend that way.
Yeah.
What did you think of the match?
I was surprised that Genocide and Maddie didn't come out victorious in this. In the same instance, though, the way that they've been building Natalia up is, I should have seen the writing on the wall as soon as she was announced as the other tag partner. She's been on a tear, and she, compared to when she first came on, her stock with me has gone up dramatically, especially after the beating that she took at the hands of Max the Impaler. So I'm interested to see where this ends up and where she ends up, where she ends up playing into a women's title picture down the road, because she has to figure in some way.
Yeah. I can't even begin to guess where that will be, or where they'll end up, but I guess we'll find out. We get Black G's, and we get Ricky Morton just talking briefly about this match. Oh, I should point out, because part of the build for this, and I don't keep score for the Champion Series, was that in that last match, Missa Kate and Natalia Markova for Team Great had to win by submission in order to tie it up and force a tiebreaker, which of course they did. And so we get a tiebreaker match, which is going to be the Mortons over against Scion and Sal the Pal.
Mm-hmm.
But we get G's and Ricky Morton in a segment beforehand. We all know Ricky's, I'm sure he'd be the first to tell us that he's lost a bunch of steps on the way. But there's still something there when that guy talks on the mic, even just for 10 seconds. Like, when they made Kerry captain, everybody kind of laughed. I think he just means because he's so young and new to the business. But like, what happened? Here we are. It's the finals. And if you learn anything, don't ever count out the Mortons. And I don't have an ounce of charisma that Ricky Morton does, but the way he delivers it and just kind of looks at the camera, I'm like, that guy could probably still punch me out, maybe. So, but Dave, we get the Mortons in the finals, Team Rock and Roll, and they go over Scion from the captain of Team Great, who takes Sal the Pal as his partner when Kerry hits kind of a impromptu, I forget what he calls his rising knee. It'll come to me in a minute. But he hits him. Kiss it goodnight. Kiss it goodbye. I'm like, what is that? Anyway, and down Sal goes. Ricky keeps Scion from getting into the ring. The Mortons go over. Team Rock and Roll will advance to the finals to face Team Tyrus at the live Powerrr tapings. What did you think of this match?
I thought it was a good match. It highlighted the wrestlers that needed to be highlighted. I don't think anybody lost their shine in a loss. Scion, his team was almost there. He still keeps his belt. It's just I'm wondering where they're going to go with the finals of this Champion Series, being that there's still 3 weeks until the live Powerrr.
Yeah.
What's up next? I'm not sure.
Yeah, the timing's a bit odd, isn't it?
It does make me think that there's something hinky's going to end up happening between now and then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's talk about live Powerrr just briefly. The only things we know right now is that there's going to be a contract signing. I haven't seen one of those in a while, and I've never really been a fan of any of them. You know, like they're good when they're presented right in boxing or UFC, where they have that long table on a stage somewhere, and then they just kind of talk, and then they kind of do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes those can be fun, but inevitably in wrestling, it's a small table that someone gets hit with a steel chair, and it's Cardona and Tyrus, two really big personalities. We know that's going to go down, Jeremy. What do you think is it going to be worth watching the live Powerrr for that alone?
No.
No.
I mean, everyone watches a contract signing for the same reason that most people watch NASCAR or hockey. They're looking for a wreck or they're looking for a fight.
Right.
And that's the only real reason to have a contract signing in wrestling, is so that way somebody can flip a table or go across it and a fight breaks out. I hope that's not the case and they freshen it up and put their own spin or twist on it, but I'm expecting it to go horribly. Just because that's what I've been conditioned for wrestling contract signings to do.
Yeah. I hope they do something, a different take on it. If they're going to do that, then try to do it a different way. That'll be, I guess we'll see how interesting it becomes.
Or this would be a good time to, if they still have Chelsea Green for anything, maybe bring Tyrus's old lady in and those two could go at it instead of Tyrus and Matt. And Matt and Tyrus could be the ones that are standing there like, why are you guys doing this? We're the ones that are supposed to be doing this, and we're taking this professionally. Make it a family affair.
Why not? Why not indeed? Like you mentioned, we got the Champion Series finals, Team Rock and Roll and Team Tyrus. Something hanky maybe beforehand, but we don't know where that's going. We're going to get Camille in action, Dave. Any thoughts on who they're going to throw up in front of Camille?
I have no idea. There's really not a storyline of anybody with the exception of La Rosa Negra, who was in the weird stopped match.
Yeah.
She's back, but there's no storyline of her going after. I'd like to see them build her up and have her earn a shot rather than just be tossed in there and then never heard of again.
What I'm afraid of in this situation is, and it might have just happened in WWE. I didn't read the article. Did Charlotte just return and win the title immediately?
Yep.
They do that every once in a while, right? Becky came back and won the title, and when she first came back, like last year or whatever. And I'm kind of worried that, like if I'm Billy, and I'm not on a variety of different levels. But if there is a talent out there that is a free agent and is just, wow, why aren't they somewhere wrestling right now? If you reveal them that night and through probably some kind of screw job, they take the title from Camille. I don't have any names really. Maybe a Tessa Blanchard type. I don't want to start a riot in that, but if I'm Billy, Tessa Blanchard's fair game for me.
Yeah,
Tyrus was, but that's what I kind of worried that like that would be a shocker of a show. Maybe I shouldn't say worry, but to end the Camille reign, at the live Powerrr, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what happens there, or maybe some kind of beatdown or something from somebody. But
that's a good one for you, Dave. How would you book Camille losing the title?
She'd have to be injured. Being that she's the one-time champ, she'd have to be injured, and it would more or less be in line with like Cardona. He was injured, so he gave up the belt, but he never lost it.
Yeah.
Now, in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, maybe we get somebody out of nowhere that comes in. And I mean, storyline wise, I'm not sure who I'd bring in, but the story is there for Jazz. Jazz doesn't wrestle anymore, but she never lost the belt. She gave the belt up due to circumstances beyond her control. She gave the belt up, and she held that belt for over 800 days, I believe.
Yeah.
It was just a long time. So if Jazz brings somebody in to do her dirty work, there's a beatdown either before the match or during the match, and the match is stopped.
Yeah, or Tom comes out, and as she's refusing to tap and she's just getting injured, and he just throws that towel in.
Yep.
Can't let that happen.
Keep her as far away from any wrestling promotion as possible, J-Cal. That's just my 2 cents thoughts on Mercedes Moné.
So, Doty says, what if she gets pregnant? Well, I don't think we can book that. But,
I could see Billy totally carnying out on that though and going that route.
yeah, hey, the certified hustler is here. It's been a very long time. Hope you're doing well. Genocide. I mean, I know that Willie Bowen would love to see genocide. I think the problem, like I just mentioned earlier, in booking the robot against the one-time, champ, or Taya Valkyrie, who's seemingly, or even Max, seemingly almost as unstoppable as Camille, against Camille, is that you end up with a problem that's exactly like Camille. A really nice problem to have, obviously, but how do you get the title off of that person now? So anyway, that's basically what's happening. And of course, we're going to have the Stevens Valentine wedding on Live Powerrr. What could possibly go wrong there? There you go.
A piece of cake from that.
And then yeah, exactly. And I'm sure that will inevitably get put in someone's face. So
yeah.
We'll see. And we're going to touch on the Nuff Said pay-per-view in February, and I think the only thing we know about that right now is that it's Tyrus versus Cardona at that pay-per-view.
Okay.
But what's interesting is kind of what we were saying before, is that we don't know anything about this show yet, and it's 2 weeks after the Live Powerrr.
Yeah.
It's 6 weeks away. Hasn't really been a lot of lead up for it yet, at all. Yeah. Really. Even the one match, I guess they have signed or they're about to have signed, literally, in Tyrus versus Cardona. There's no lead up, Jeremy.
And that's But that's something that we've seen with the NWA, though. Unfortunately, that's one of their habits that they haven't really broken yet. Is that they either announce stuff way too early, or they announce it day of, essentially.
Right.
You know, so I that is inconsistency in most areas that most wrestling promotions get right is the only area that the NWA is consistent in.
Yeah. I think you're right. And, Jay says, I think for leading up to some of these matches, I think Taya could work in a rematch in Mexico, to which the Hustler was just saying, I got it. I wish that was in the USA. Otherwise, I got to get smuggled into it. That happens in March, just after that pay per view.
And speaking of, yes, Jay, you should definitely go to Mexico for that one. I didn't get to watch the pre-party while it was on yesterday because I was unfortunately tied up with work. But I watched it afterwards, and Jay, you should definitely go to Mexico for that.
Yeah. And Doty says the candidate for the next NWA Women's World Champion is most likely either Taya or Kylan or Genocide, because Billy loves big wrestlers, men or women. They just need to build Genocide into the next Camille.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm, and I don't want to argue because the talent's clearly there. As Hustler points out, Genocide's a Mission Pro champ. So, why do you want to build another Camille? One of the reasons I wanted to see someone like Colby Carino take a title is because he was, his character is a shit heel little weasel, right? He'll take that title. He doesn't have to overpower you. He goes a different way. If you're a hockey guy, he was a Kenny Linsman of the NWA. He was the Rat. He'll just get in there and take that. He's good and he's sneaky and he cheats and, like a different. I don't know if we just want to recreate Camille. I don't know. What do you think, Dave?
Not so much recreate, but just build up some strong female wrestlers so you don't have to always rely on Camille or one champion. Have at least one or two in your back pocket that if something should happen, you can quickly switch the title.
Yeah. The problem I find with that, though, is, and especially in the NWA, is that when you have 3 people or 4 people at the top, you end up with 3 ways and 4 ways in main events for pay-per-views.
Yeah.
It's like, it could be anybody. Like, can we just take turns? Rather than all at once.
I see where Certified put in the chat, Kylan King, and I think she's came too close in the past year
twice
for it to go to her now, because it almost seems like a consolation prize if she were to get it at that point.
Yeah. Jay's 89% sure he'll be going.
Awesome.
It's a very, very specific.
Oddly specific.
Doty says, I wish Natalia could also get a strong push because she has strong skills and personality and also a strong cult following, but she's not big enough. But again, maybe the fact that she's not Camille is the reason that she works.
That's the reason for me. Whenever you have for me anyways, whenever you have a champion that's held a title for as long as Camille has, you kind of have to go the opposite direction of what the people have seen for so long, or they're going to real quickly just start comparing, well, Camille was doing that better.
Yeah.
We got Camille 2.0.
Yeah. Just changing it up is, variety is the spice of life, as they used to say. Hey, Dave, Hustler says, do you see Trevor becoming world champion again? He came close before beating Aldis. What do you think?
Only if they choose to. At this time, Trevor doesn't need to. He has a rematch clause.
Yeah.
But, I'm not really sure what they're planning on doing with Tyrus. I'll get to the Tyrus Cardona talk with the fantasy booking, but right now, Trevor doesn't need the belt. And I mean, don't take this wrong, but he never really needed the belt at all.
Yeah. I can
They
agree
did
with that.
they did much better with the second go around. And I mean, it's just Trevor's Trevor.
Yeah.
He's a Harley throwback. The belt is always good around his waist, but he doesn't need it.
Yep. I
And
100% agree.
I think he needs to start building up those around him, whether it be the country gentlemen. Imagine those guys as a 3 or 4 person group. Maybe put Silas in there. Imagine that. Those 4 guys.
That's
Wow.
definitely different.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we're redneck and we're proud. Boom.
Trevor and Thrillbilly as tag champs. Sure, why not? Jay says Natalya could be a great champion. What about Allison Kay? What do you think, Jeremy?
We've got to see Allison Kay as the champion, and that was my introductory champion, and whenever I started watching the NWA, Allison had it, and more than capable. I'm more than capable of carrying that title, carrying it with grace and class, and an ass kicker in the ring. I would not be opposed to Allison getting it back at all. Even if she was just utilized as a transitional champion, her and Camille are different enough that I have no problem with her carrying the title again.
Yeah, if it's for me, it would be, the Tommy Rich situation for that for me. I would want a very short reign before something else happened. I think of her like I did Melina when she was around, and Angelina Love a bit now. About getting some of the younger talent, over, which she's been doing recently. And, we all love her work and, remember her reign fondly. She's a great champion. But I'm like you. I have no problem rewarding her with another reign. I think it would be short, and I'd like to see somebody newer and fresher come in. They've been talking about that NWA Television Women's Championship for some time, though, and she was always the name that is. Oh, actually, Hustler's talking about it right now. She's waiting on a TV championship tournament, so NWA is a Grand Slam champion. There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of what's going on around later on, past the live taping and into Nuff Said. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about UWN and do our segment we call Championship Wrestling from Jeremy. Over to you, my friend.
We're going to start out with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood this week because my review of it last week was very short because we had a new United World Heavyweight Champion and friend of the show, Danny Limelight. We start off the show with Levi Shapiro and Howdy Price versus Dustin Daniels. Howdy joins the commentary team, says that he didn't get knocked out by El Primo Genio so much as he had a touch of the vapors. Rob Shit's paperwork is almost cleared, so we should be seeing Rob Shit soon. Rob Shit was also previously Rob Spitz. I caught that last night.
Like we said, if it's a PG program, he must be Rob Poops.
But he was in last year's Red Carpet Rumble, and he was immediately tossed out by Guy Tweakazetti of all people, now manager of Midnight Heat. So I'm kind of hoping that I get to see a Rob Poop and Guy Tweakazetti rematch, grudge match. But it was a good opening match. Having Levi on your opening match is a smart move. The crowd loves him, and he knows how to get the crowd prepared and worked up for the next one. But Levi looked timeless as always, and Daniels had some good offensive moments and got a 2 count at one point, and even kicked out of Levi's old school fish drop where he gets up on the second rope and he old schools it like the Taker and comes off and lands the big fish drop. Nobody's ever kicked out of that, and Daniels did. So I was surprised with that. But then Levi is able to hit a backbreaker and quickly follows it up with the big-time pile driver for the 3 count victory. And that was something that I noticed this weekend, too. There was a lot of what would be considered old school finishes to where it was just a simple schoolboy roll-up or something. And I was happy to see little things like that. You know, I'm getting it's getting kind of old seeing someone set up their finisher every week. Well, here it comes. This is the end of the match. You know, so
right.
I like what they're doing with that. We then get a little backstage segment with Johnny Loquasto and Willie Mack. Willie tells Johnny that Talos has been causing him problems and it's time to put an end to it. So we'll get a Talos and Willie Mack main event later on. We then go to a match with Viperous versus a returning Johnny Robbie. She was out with an injury suffered at the hands of Reka Tahaka, and the crowd let her know how happy they were for her to be back. Robbie started out getting Viperous in a couple of pin attempts, looking to end the match quickly. But Viperous gets the upper hand and slows the pace down. She methodically starts picking apart Robbie. This goes on for quite some time before Johnny hits a back body drop, which stuns Viperous for just a moment. Viperous goes for the cross arm breaker, but Johnny reverses into a roll up for the win. Commentary did a really good job of putting over Robbie's accomplishments before she had gotten injured at the hands of Reka Tahaka. She was on a tear in her rookie year, and her winning this was a step in the right direction because since Viperous has came back, she's been on her own little tear and racking up wins. So then we go to Johnny Loquasto with Jack Banning. Jack wants to know why Judiz is getting a title shot after Jack pinned him. Johnny says it's because he beat 3 members of the institution. Jack wants to know what he's going to get for beating Judiz. He said there's more announcements coming for the red carpet rumble, and Johnny better make it right. Johnny tells him that threatening a committee member is not the way to get what he wants. Jack says all he wants is the United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Championship and to tell the world that everyone is welcome in the institution. And this guy he's definitely somebody to watch for. I love what he's doing with this institution stable. Mm-hmm. We then go to a match with El Primo Henio Tribeca with Halston Body versus Koto Hiro. The crowd taunts El Primo Henio at the beginning of the match with a lot of traitor chants. And the guy's got a lot of heat with the crowd now that he's joined up with Halston Body. Koto is impressive, and it's a good matchup. Both men have a vast move list and show some good unorthodox offense. But in the end, Halston Body's at ringside. El Primo Henio gets the ref distracted just long enough for Halston to hit Koto Hiro with a foreign object, and that allows El Primo Henio to get a suplex and then a roll up for the pin. We then go to, and if you're wearing headphones, turn your volume down because it's about to get real. We get Brendan Devine and Honest John of the Institution versus Beef Candy. This was a great match. I love Beef Candy. I've made this known. They're one of my top 3 on my Mount Rushmore of modern wrestling tag teams right now. So, but the
Reno Scum on your current Mount Rushmore.
Oh, they're front and center, bro. Front and center.
Okay.
I'm waiting for my shirt to come in from Pro Wrestling
I
Tees.
saw it. It's awesome, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm waiting for my coffee cup to come in as well from Streamlabs, my Alliance blog official coffee mug.
Yeah, get your merch, alliance-wrestling.com. The merch shop is there. This is,
plug.
by the way, a great mug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks big too. I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
It'll have mine will have decaf because I'm super sensitive to caffeine, but yeah. That was just a cheap plug for the merch anyways. But the institution attacked before Beef Candy can even make it off stage. As the match officially starts, Honest clips Flex McCallion's knee as Flex is using Richie Slade as a makeshift battering ram of sorts. Both teams throw everything they have at each other, with neither truly ever having the upper hand. A lot of dual maneuver tag action throughout that kept me on the edge of my seat. Slade makes a Hail Mary dive from the floor to the center of the ring to break up a pin attempt by Honest John on Flex McCallion. This gives Flex just enough time to get a little breather in there. He sets up Honest for the BBB, and Beef Candy gets a win and one step closer to challenging possibly for the United World Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. It'll be a banger match if it happens.
100%.
I just hope it happens a little bit down the road still.
Yeah.
We then get Jack Farmer with El Primo Henio and Halston Body. Jack wants Halston to explain himself for using a foreign object on Kodo Hero. Halston doesn't need to explain anything to Jack Farmer or anyone else. The only thing that needs to be explained is people need to start respecting El Primo Henio Tribeca. We then go to our main event match with Willie Mack versus Talos with Jordan Clearwater. If you haven't seen Talos, good God, that guy is big.
Be careful because Natalia's watching and she's the #1 fan to Grandpa's podcast.
That's my granddaughter.
There you go. Awesome. Thank you, Hannah.
Grandpa loves you, sweetheart. But this is how tall Talos is, okay? Talos was taller than the ring posts.
Oh, 7'1".
Yeah. My wife, who is not a wrestling person at all, commented when she saw Talos and said that he appears to be bigger than the Great Khali, which got me a pop. I popped in my heart because my wife's not. She tolerates my wrestling fandom with a smile and a nod of, okay, dear.
Same with mine. And what about the Wolf Saddies? Not to interrupt, Willie wants to know, what about the Wolf Saddies? They on your Mount Rushmore right now?
Give them time.
Give them time.
Give them time.
Yeah.
Right now, my current Mount Rushmore is three tag teams in the UWN. That's Reno Scum, Midnight Heat, and Beef Candy. They're firing on all cylinders, and then FTR.
Okay.
That's a get that. They're on my all time. FTR is so,
100%.
But Willie, who is not a small man by any means, looks minuscule for the first time that I can ever remember him standing across. I've seen him in matches with Moose, who was a monster of a man, and even then, he didn't look as small as he does next to Talos. And a lot of that had, UWN does a really good job of their camera angles too. So a lot of their camera angles were perspective shots where they were at a upward angle or a downward angle a little bit. So that helped accentuate it a lot as well. But both men, it's a hoss fight from the beginning. Both men trade shoulder blocks to each other, and when Talos ran into Willie Mack, it was like he ran into a brick wall. Whenever Willie ran into Talos, it was like he was running into a brick wall. Neither man bent an inch on that. Talos hits a thunderous big boot that gave me pause for a moment. It was so loud. And Talos starts dissecting Mac, but Willie is determined to put an end to Talos and weaken the embassy. Talos shoves Willie into the ref, taking him out, and Clearwater gets in the ring. Talos holds Mac, and Clearwater lines up for the Midas touch. Right at the last second, Mac ducks, and Talos takes it instead and doesn't fall. The first person since Clearwater has introduced the Midas touch to basically eat it and not even drop to a knee. This opens Willie up, and Willie slaps and tosses Clearwater out of the ring, hits a stunner followed up by a big frog splash off the top for the win. After the match, Talos pie-faced Clearwater from about 2/3 away across the ring into the corner and left Clearwater on his rump, sitting there looking shocked as Talos went to the back. That was the end of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood.
Media just threw it up on the screen here. I love the exchange between Talos and Mac on the top rope. Smartly done.
Yeah. Again, that's one of those where, Dave and his crew over at UWN are making great matchups and sensible matchups that are logically sound. And then, like with the Talos and Willie Mack match, I'm not sure of how long Talos has been around, but Willie Mack's been around for long enough to be considered a veteran now, and he made Talos look like $1 million.
Great.
So what they're doing over in Hollywood and what Dustin's doing in Memphis is just really good. We then go, speaking of Memphis, we then go to that. We've got Dustin Starr with Big John Dalton and the Gun Show Bret Michaels. After Mike Anthony's attack on Big John's father, Big John wants Mike Anthony today, and he wants the Gun Show to stay in the back. This will be a title match in the main event. We then get the number one contender tag match, Van Vicious and Colton Cage of the Hollywood Clique versus Derek the King and Ray Sanders. The King hits Colton Cage with a super kick, securing he and Ray's spot as the number one contenders and the Memphis tag team for the Memphis tag team titles. They'll have a hard battle ahead of them when they face the Posse, who are the current tag team champions there in Memphis, and they pretty much got that in a deathlock right now. We then go to Martin and Jennifer Justice, who announced that they are now called the Readjustments, and they want to set the standard for mixed tag action in Memphis. And they call out the Golden Savages of Gio Savage and Cassandra Golden. Martin wants the women's title to be put on the line for this match, even though it's a tag match. And Dustin quickly says that that's not how things work. But Cassandra Golden says, well, we're not backing down from the match. And if you want to put the title on the line, then I'll put the title on the line. In the end, though, Cassandra gets the pinfall win after delivering a body slam to Jennifer Justice. It was a fairly quick match. They make quite short work of them. There wasn't really much to write down about it.
Okay.
And we get Dustin Starr with Mike Anthony, and Mike accepts Big John's challenge for the title match in today's main event. This guy is nailing it as far as being a heel right now. Anytime he gets a mic in front of him, he delivers fire and just utterly decimates the person that he's going to eventually end up decimating in the ring. It's a lot of fun to watch. We then get a real quick match between Remarkable Ryan Rembrandt and Action Jackson. The crowd popped big for when Action Jackson came out. There was a little bit of back and forth, but Rembrandt used Action Jackson's ring rust against him and got a quick roll-up victory for the win. We then go to our main event match, Big John Dalton and Mike Anthony. Anthony was dominant for most of this match. Despite that, Big John, who is only 16 years old, looked solid and showed that he will be someone to watch in the years to come. Dalton's lack of in-ring experience was his only weakness throughout this war, and it was a war. But Anthony puts Dalton through a table, quickly rolls him back into the ring for the cover and the win. I don't expect this to be the end of this one. Right after the match, the gun show came out to make sure that the end was the end, and Mike Anthony wasn't able to deliver any more punishment to Big John Dalton. This was definitely a war for Big John, but like I said, for 16 years old, he's definitely somebody that you're going to want to watch in the years to come. Solid technique in the ring, and he's got a great mind for the business. So definitely somebody to check out. And as always, watch Memphis and Hollywood wrestling Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah,
that's my report.
If you're not watching,
you're fucking up.
That's the new slogan. Used to just be, "Are you really a pro wrestling fan?" Now it's, you're fucking up. It's awesome. I love it. Thank you, sir. And let's go back to the National Wrestling Alliance for a moment. So I'm distracted by my beautiful wife walking up the stairs. Hey, baby. I love you. And over to Dave, and something that I've been excited to talk about all day in our I Respect You Booker Man segment. Does Matt Cardona losing to Tyrus actually make sense? What do you mean by that, Dave? And walk us through it.
Well, Matt never lost the title. He gave up the title due to injury. Depending on how far they want to go with the Tyrus storyline as champion, to me, it doesn't make sense. Give Matt a second chance, but make him work for it. Do a best of 3, best of 5 series, something where they put the championship belt up and either I'm not really sure how I would do it, but if you're going to keep Matt around, you're wasting him doing stupid stuff with Rolando. I'm sorry.
Right.
Speaking my mind. Yeah. Even if Matt was willing to do it, that's fine. But Matt is too much of a bigger name to not allow him to build up the NWA clout.
Right.
That either way, he still needs to be able to fight for the belt. Whether you do a best of series or there's a wonky finish, give him a second chance. He doesn't have to hold it forever.
Yeah.
If he ends up not winning, that storyline can come to an end. But then what do you do with him? Well, it seems to me that he and Pope have some unfinished business from when Pope was thrown into the ring and ended up in the hospital with a concussion.
Yep.
Right.
Well, let's see. Matt wasn't involved with the Champion Series. I didn't see Pope there either. It's a storyline that took place that if Pope gets somebody to back him, you have Mike Knox backing Cardona, or you have Myers backing him. that it can become a feud down the line
Between families.
That all these guys have had chances at a belt one way or another.
Right.
That you can either do strange bedfellows, or you can do, like you said, family. But I would either you. I'm not saying you have to give him a second chance, but he is owed a second chance, being that Cardona wasn't beat for the belt.
Right.
That, I mean, if it goes to 75, and then they decide that, okay, the storyline comes to an end, that you have to figure out a logical way for everybody involved to move on.
Yeah.
That, I mean, they're just, I mean,
one of the things that as you're talking and I'm running through it, as I always do in my mind, like what's Dave on right now? Because I think you got a good track, is, their media presences as like a focal point for that.
Oh, yeah.
Feud. Like, Matt Cardona can say, yeah, you have 592,000 followers, Tyrus. I have 2.1 million followers on Twitter.
Now,
wow.
Imagine if they sign and then the next week, hey, there's a phone call or we have a video call for Tyrus. Hey, Tyrus, you need to take this call. What happens if Matt Cardona shows up on Gutfeld?
Yeah.
Imagine.
What a great idea.
Imagine that. And I mean, as much as Matt was the belt collector, the way that the NWA does their tapings, it's not short like Impact does, where they can turn every 2 to 3 weeks and see what's working and what's not, and turn on a dime and adjust.
Yep.
Matt is doing like the game changer stuff and all that. Anytime he does it, it's either for one event or for that promotion, and he'll do several events for them. But besides being on Impact, he's not doing TV.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're on YouTube. Isn't he the internet champion, or at one time was the internet champion?
Mm-hmm.
Have him bring that back NWA style and have him put his internet belt up against Tyrus, winner takes all.
I also think it's probably more likely to happen than we might think too, right? Because he doesn't seem, all respect to to Matt Cardona, who's great talent, he doesn't seem as hot right now as he did a year ago.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see him as much. And he had that injury, and we don't see him as much around everywhere as we did before, right?
Yeah. And I like Dave's idea of the Kaufman Lawler-esque Letterman thing of Cardona showing up on Gutfeld. I really dig that. I think that would honestly, I feel, bring eyes to the product. That would get the people that watch Gutfeld to tune in to see what Tyrus, their guy, is going to do to someone that just came on his show essentially and downed him.
And I mean, you could have it on both sides. You have the people that like Gutfeld,
yep,
or are Tyrus fans. They would watch. Hopefully, there'd be some crossover of them watching the NWA. Then you have everybody that either loves or hates Cardona. They're like, holy crap! I can't believe that he went on TV and did that.
Yeah,
they're having a match. I have to see this.
Yep.
You build it up on YouTube, and if they end up doing a pay-per-view type thing on YouTube or still do it on Fight, hopefully you get some views out of it.
Yeah.
With all this media, social media behind it, why not? I mean, give it a shot. What do you have to lose? The only thing you have to lose is not trying it.
Yep.
I think that's really well said. I like the idea of you mentioned before. I know you've mentioned it earlier as well. The phone call. It's not the kind of show. I've never seen it actually, but just in the clips I've seen, it looks like an entertainment news show. It's not the kind of show where Matt Cardona would just run out and hit Tyrus with a chair, right? That's not their focus. But I like that. We got a caller for week 1, right? And it's just Cardona going like, I'm Matt Cardona and I'm insane, right? I'm coming for that belt, and then Tyrus just hanging up. And then you could do it, Gutfeld's a daily show, and you could build it up every week. There's a caller, and maybe they have Matt Cardona sit in if he's passionate about a particular subject that they're talking on. It could be opposite Tyrus, into the fabric of their show.
I'm in the same camp as you with you, Tim. I've never watched Gutfeld, and I looked him up today whenever I saw the title for the 10 pounds of Gutfeld, and I popped for it. And I looked him up, and Google labels him as a comedian.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Found that interesting.
Well, Dave, amazing as always. And I think it just naturally flows into what that title is tonight for the little round table. Hopefully we can get everybody in on this. The value of the 10 pounds of gold title defenses for those versus the exposure that it gets on Gutfeld. So I didn't want to get too heady for this, but let's take the surface layer off and look at this for a sec. Tyrus, as Dave pointed out in our little Discord, he became NWA World's Heavyweight Champion at Hard Times 3 on November 12th. It is now, by my count, as of this airing, 53 days with him as World's Heavyweight Champion. There have been 0 title defenses. So let's go back and forth. Let's just ask the questions as they come. I'll ask you both this because this is a softball. Do we cut him some slack because of the holidays for not having title defenses?
No. I grew up in a time where if you were carrying a strap, you defended it at least every 30 days. If you couldn't defend it in that 30-day span of time, you couldn't carry it anymore.
Right. Also, Christmas was a big deal.
Yes.
For wrestling. What do you think, Dave?
I think he should defend it. And one of the only situations now is that Idol Sports Management and Church's Money, they all have belts, so he can't defend the belt against his own group.
Yeah.
Whereas it was done when he was TV champion, that he fought within his own group. And it wasn't a bad thing that he won, but it wasn't on the level.
Right.
Now, he did recently, well, I think last month, he and Kevin Kiley, who was A-Rai in the WWE, Alex Riley, they did a tag match. And it was either in New York or Florida or something, but he wrestled, but he didn't defend his belt. He needs to defend the belt. I mean, even if it's every 45 days, he needs to defend it one way or another.
Yeah.
Now, seeing how they're doing tapings and they'll have pay-per-view or bigger events, I'd rather see him do a storyline where he defends them at the bigger pay-per-views or the bigger events.
Yeah,
and it's not a TV thing. Going back to like the old WWF, when you may see the champion, but he never wrestled.
Yep.
He only wrestled on big events. He only wrestled at Madison Square Garden.
Yep.
He only wrestled here. He only wrestled there. It wasn't, you may see Hulk Hogan, but you'd never see him in the ring unless it was a pay-per-view.
Right.
That nowadays they don't have to do it every month, the NWA just needs to have a presence of Tyrus being there. Now, you can also say he didn't defend his belt because of the Champions Series. Okay, that's plausible.
Mm-hmm.
But still, as a champion, you do need to defend your belt every once in a while.
Yeah.
Here's something that's frightening. His media says, I hate to say this, but the cat is blocking the comment. If Idol management had to do a scenario with Tyrus doing a defense, they'll do the finger poke of doom on Tyrus with one of the belt holders saying one of them's worthy, or the other way around, for that matter.
Yeah.
Just to get a defense out of the way. I guess you could.
Yeah.
Willie supports us by saying, look at how many times Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, Jack Briscoe had to defend the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. We agree. In the same way, I don't even have to ask the other question I put in our sheet is, do the upcoming comedy shows he's doing in January and February, will that will limit his time? Does that give him a leeway in the defenses? No more than what Christmas would, right? But let's
across more as an excuse as to why you don't have to defend him in my eyes.
Right. But the NWA has clearly put a belt, not on so much of a wrestler, though I don't mean to suggest he isn't, as much as he is a media personality.
Yep.
So since that's the plan, and he's on Gutfeld, I believe 5 days a week, since we like the comedy tour won't cut him slack, the holidays won't cut him slack, he probably doesn't really get any slack from the Champions Series and the way that the tapings go. Does his weeknight appearance on Gutfeld, the schedule around that, cut him any slack? And what I mean by that, does the 10 pounds of gold appearing on a highly rated TV broadcast 5 nights out of 7, is that a trade-off? Does he get some slack for not defending that because he's doing that show because of the exposure?
If it equates into numbers, and I think that we may see a bump from that, being as now they're on YouTube again and freely accessible, to where someone that watches Gutfeld now 15, 20 years ago was a wrestling fan and goes, oh, hey, I'll check that out now because it's back on YouTube and I can watch it for free.
Right.
Because to expect those people to just fork out $5 a month that's not happening.
I think that's my answer too. If it gives us dividends in terms of viewers, right?
Right.
I'd be willing to say, all right, you're only going to defend it once every 3 months or whatever. Like, there is no schedule. It'll just be whenever, because you're carrying that thing around to other media outlets and giving us exposure that way. But in doing so, then it means that the number of title defenses that we expect out of our champion, and we want, like Jay just said, Trevor didn't have a lot of defenses, but he did go to SW Fury or whatever it was called, that place.
Yeah, SWE Fury.
Right. But our champions do go to other indies, Dave.
Yeah.
You look like you wanted to throw in there, Dave.
Oh, go ahead. No, I just had a thought. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. And so it kind of means that we'd have to be okay with it being on a media personality more than we would on a wrestler who's going to not only do NWA dates, but go all over the place, touring around on the independents, defending it. I kind of wonder in the end is, do we want, does Tyrus need to focus more on the NWA and the fans that want a champion that defends, or does the NWA need to focus more on Tyrus when they want a TV personality? And I think that's a really interesting question. I don't know if we can answer it. Honestly, like, everybody has their opinions. We want him to defend and we want him to be on TV, but let's Well, let's be reasonable. I don't think he can be everywhere. He's not that good.
And that does, but that question does highlight though some of the weaknesses that Tyrus has, because he can't defend it every week.
Right.
In his last, we saw how, I mean, he is getting into a better shape. I don't want to say getting into better shape, but getting into a better shape.
Yep.
But mobility is still clearly an issue for him in the ring.
Mhm.
And the fact that he pads his schedule with so many appearances on TV and book signings and comedy things,
Right.
again, kind of feels like a cheap out to me for him to say, well, I've got this obligation going on, so I can't prop up this belt the way that it deserves to be propped up.
Right. And I hear what you're saying. And we are not saying that that is what he's saying.
Right.
But I do hear you. Yeah.
Right.
Jay says a world champion should defend once a month.
Yes.
That's just the way it was in the NWA, and it should be in the NWA. History, tradition, legacy, every 30 days, guys.
And I mean, for as much as for as many traditions as the Evil E has broken down over the years, that's still one that holds pretty true. It may not be exactly 30 days, but you're seeing that belt defended at least in between 2 months, if not every month. You know what I mean? So there are still traditions that need to be held true, that need to be held on to, and that is definitely one of them.
What do you think, Dave?
Well, I agree with what Jeremy's saying. It's almost one of these things of like back when WCW had David Arquette. They're doing the name value, the flavor of the week per se.
Yeah.
And my only other thought is if he brings over the next month, if he brings some viewers to YouTube, to the NWA, that's great. But he also has the live power, and then less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Nuff Said. Now, that's his phrase he uses.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Tyrus, Nuff Said.
Yep.
What happened with the last pay-per-view that was named after somebody's
Always ready, just not right now.
Always ready. Imagine what happens. They have the live power where they have the taping. They have the signing, but they're also doing tapings later that night for the next couple weeks. What happens if Matt Cardona has somebody intervene for him and Tyrus, it'd be a shame if you get injured before your pay-per-view, like what happened to me. Then you'd have to put the belt up. Who knows? It's an idea. I mean, it's one of these things of they can go so many different ways. If he beats Cardona, he beat a former champion. He's already beaten Trevor. Trevor can come back. There's several other guys I'd love to see them push Latimer.
Yeah.
But there's so much unfinished business with Cardona, the Pope. They need to take some of these stories that have happened in the past and recycle them and either make them happen or finish them.
Yep.
That don't leave that story
That loose end.
untold.
Yeah.
That you need to finish up. And I mean, those guys, I believe everybody can work with Tyrus for a passable match.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, it's one of these things of it's deciding on where they're going and who they may possibly bring in.
Well, Willie says if Tyrus can't defend the 10 pounds of gold and take the title away from him. I'll get to that in a second. Most likely not due to Tyrus' so-called TV schedule. Well, it is a TV schedule, but more likely his physical status is probably why he isn't wrestling every month. They need to have some segment for him to be either seen or an angle leading to a quick match. Yeah. I mean, I think he's my age. I think he's a little younger, actually. God. I think he's 50 or 51 or something like that. So, that's certainly part of it. But if I had a choice between going on book signings and comedy tours and being on Gutfeld every night or defending the 10 pounds of gold all over the country and, in gyms or whatever, at the age and physical conditioning that he's in, I'd take the first choice. And
oh yeah,
I think as long as we have Tyrus as champion, as long as that is, we have to understand that our champion is a media personality first and an NWA World Champion second.
Yeah.
And that's just the way that it's going to be. And hopefully those dividends will pay off when it comes to bringing those viewers in. You mentioned David Arquette, and I was going to close on David Arquette. So good for you because you beat me there. David Arquette, some people will say without, maybe you should read the book Nitro, by the way. There's also one by Brian Alvarez, The Death of WCW. Both really good. They're over here. Some people will say David Arquette killed WCW. But regardless of whether or not he didn't, but David Arquette also killed off for a long time David Arquette.
Yeah.
For a lot of people. He's redeemed himself. I think he went to wrestling fans. I'm only speaking about wrestling fans. But if you get a chance, by the way, hunt down the documentary. You Cannot Kill David Arquette. It's fun.
Great.
It's cool.
Fantastic documentary.
Right. There's another guy who's my age right now and who, it just went back to wrestling and conditioned himself and did it for a handshake and a hot dog. And, couldn't stand the idea of being WCW World Champion and the joke of a sport that he loved. But
he was, and as stated in that, he was someone that held wrestling in a high respect all the way through his life. It wasn't something that Ready to Rumble just got tossed in his lap and he's like, sure, it's a paycheck.
Yeah, loved
that
it.
was something that he actively wanted to be in that and involved with it. And when he got pulled into the WCW, even he knew that it was a bad idea, but he loved wrestling.
Yeah.
And who's going to turn down the chance to hold a world title?
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't have.
All I was going to say on it is that, well, I don't know if Tyrus has any concerns that he will damage his wrestling career like a younger David Arquette did. I do think that the NWA, as an entity that we all know and love, needs to worry about where Tyrus will put the name of the NWA if he's a media personality first and a champion second. And we'll leave it at that, I think, guys.
That's a good one. I like that.
That's going to be it for us as our 60-minute show goes, well, just about 2 hours again. Hey, let's. Where can we find you online, Dave?
You can find me at Dave Scooby on Twitter and Instagram.
Jeremy?
You can find me on Twitter at HJWOTS. I want to give a shout out to my little brother Jimbo and to my mom and to my granddaughter and to anyone that's watching. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. I'm on Twitter currently for a little bit anyway as at NWA Gold _ where, well, you can't win it anymore, but one of you out there I went through hundreds of names with my wife this weekend.
Wow.
I filled pages, and we threw them back and forth. And I talked to some other people as well, including the boss. And anyway, I'm giving this replica away. That's why I'm holding it up to the person whose name I select. I'm 99% of the way there. I just need a little bit of time. So to pull that actual trigger is difficult. To be 100% sure on what your name is going to be for the rest of time, I've found it much hard. I thought I'd be done by now.
Yeah.
I'm 99.9% sure I'm done by now. But there we are. That's where I am. I ask that you guys tune in tomorrow night, Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, for the Alliance guys, the originals, the A-Team podcast with J. Cal, DKM, and Jaden. Although I feel like I'm blessed to be here with you guys, like with our A-Team as well. I kind of market us as the underdogs who are squatting here. We're all. What's that?
We're the junior varsity.
The junior varsity, perfect.
Every once in a while, they'll pull somebody up to the big show for the big game, or somebody gets injured. Okay,
right.
But cool. I'm fine with how we are.
Practice squad, yeah, me too.
Yep.
But they're on tomorrow. DKM and Jaden join NWA-J on the original show as they run down Powerrr. They do a lot of NWA talk. And, of course, Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, that hour before Powerrr, the pre-party, the flagship show with J. Cal himself, as he runs down all the happenings in the NWA and the card that you're going to watch now on YouTube. So you'll just have to click over rather than turn on the TV. So that's it. That's us. Anything you guys want to add as we go out? Anything going on with you?
Good riddance, NWA, on that shitty ass app fight.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was ridiculous. The J Alliance. We are the Alliance. Y'all be part of the Alliance. We are part of the Alliance. Jay likes Heritage Championships. I don't know. We'll find out in a week or so anyway. But guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you everyone in the chat. And until next time, we'll see you at the matches.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Powerrr. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.